Lap 8 at Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton is leading the sprint at the track he has won 9 times, and Kimi Antonelli is sitting in his mirrors. Then they hit the Hangar Straight, and the Ferrari just stops moving forward. Antonelli sails past like Hamilton lifted off the throttle. No defense, no fight. He wins by 2.745 seconds. So how does a teenager walk past a 7-time champion on his own home straight without ever pushing the throttle harder? The answer was never in the car. It was in how Mercedes spends the energy the car cannot see. Here is the part that stings. All season long, people look at the Mercedes and shrug. Fast in a straight line, they say. Good engine, nothing more. Nobody wants to look any closer than that. And that lazy little verdict, fast in a straight line, is the exact thing that just took Silverstone away from Lewis Hamilton in front of his own crowd. Because what happens on the Hangar Straight is not a good engine. It is a plan. A way of racing that Mercedes has been quietly sharpening since the opening race of the year, and Silverstone is where it finally shows its teeth. Antonelli does not outdrive Hamilton here. He outspends him. Every lap of that sprint, 2 cars carry the same rulebook and the same slice of electrical power, and one of them keeps finding more of it exactly where it hurts. On the straight, in the overtake. At the moment, Hamilton has nowhere left to hide, and the timing could not be crueler. This is Silverstone. This is the one place on the calendar that belongs to Hamilton, the track where the grandstands say his name before he has even fired the car up. 9 wins here, more than anyone. And a driver barely old enough to be in the sport just drives past him like the great man is standing still. That is not the whole picture either. Antonelli does not just win this sprint. He leads the championship. So this is not a lucky Saturday from a kid having the weekend of his life. This is the driver who is already beating everyone, doing it again at the one track where he was supposed to be humbled by the master. Think about how that flips the whole story. This is meant to be the weekend the young star turns up at the master's home and learns his place. Instead, the master is the one getting the lesson, in his own backyard, in front of the people who have chanted his name for a decade. There is no gentle version of that. And if you go back through the season with fresh eyes, you start to see it everywhere. Race after race, the Mercedes finds that little extra shove at the end of the straight. Nobody put a name to it. It got filed under good engine and forgotten by the next weekend. Silverstone is simply the race where it becomes impossible to ignore, because it happens to the one man the whole paddock was watching. The Grand Prix is tomorrow, and the same weapon that beats Hamilton on Saturday is still fully loaded. Rewind to the moment itself, because it tells you everything. Coming out of the final corners, Hamilton has the lead and he has track position, the 2 things that usually settle a fight like this before it even starts. Antonelli is close, but not close enough to try anything through the corners. This is exactly where Hamilton normally wins. He controls the pace. He covers the inside line. He makes you wait until you make a mistake. Not tonight. Onto the Hangar Straight. Both cars are flat out. Same throttle, same top gear. Both cars using the same movable wings the 2026 cars run to cut drag on the straights. And then the Mercedes simply pulls away from the middle of the straight. Not a little, a chunk. Antonelli reels in the gap, draws alongside, and clears Hamilton well before either of them reaches the braking zone. There is no wheel banging. There is no desperate lunge. It is clean, and that is what makes it frightening. Hamilton does everything right, and still loses the corner before the corner even arrives. You can almost feel the moment he checks his mirror, sees the Mercedes arriving with that much extra speed, and knows there is nothing he can do about it. He does not defend, because there is no defense to make. You cannot cover a car that is going to be past you before the braking zone. The home crowd sees the silver car go by, and the noise just drops. Up to Silverstone, Hamilton is the one dictating these battles. He picks the moment. He forces the error. Here, that flips completely. He is the one being dictated to, and there is nothing in his hands to answer with. From there, the sprint is over as a contest. Antonelli edges away, lap after lap, a couple of tenths at a time, and by the flag the gap is 2.745 seconds. In a race that short, that is not a narrow win. That is a message sent to the entire grid. And almost everyone watching still thinks they just saw straight line speed. That was only round 1. Here is what they did not see. Under the 2026 rules, every car carries a far bigger electrical punch than the engines of a few years ago. Roughly half of the power that fires these cars down the Hangar Straight now comes from the battery, not from burning fuel. And the driver gets a manual tool called overtake mode, a burst of extra deployment he can trigger himself whenever he wants to attack or defend. The catch is that the energy is finite. You cannot hold the button down forever. Every car gets the same allowance across the lap, and the whole sport quietly turns into a question of when you spend it and when you save it. Deploy too early, and you run dry before the line. Deploy too late, and the move never happens at all. Get it wrong twice in a lap, and you are a sitting duck on every straight that follows. So the racing has changed underneath everyone. It is no longer just about who is quickest through a corner. It is about who has the discipline to save a little charge where it does not matter and unload it where it does. A full lap of Silverstone becomes a chess game played with a battery, and every driver is playing it whether they understand it or not. Get that chess game right, and you look like a genius. Get it wrong, and you look slow, even when your car is not. The frightening thing about Antonelli is that he never seems to get it wrong. Lap after lap, he arrives at the fight with more in hand than the man he is fighting. Plenty of drivers treat it like a panic button. They wait until they are already alongside, then they mash it and pray. Antonelli does the opposite. Watch the replay and the Mercedes is already accelerating before it reaches Hamilton. Not after. The deployment lands early, the run builds through the middle of the straight, and by the time the two cars are side by side, the pass is already finished. Hamilton reaches for his own overtake mode to answer, and there is nothing there. He has less to give at the exact instant he needs more. That is the difference between using the tool and mastering it. Two drivers, same button, same energy, and one of them turns it into a guaranteed pass, while the other is left pressing a button that does nothing. Hardly anyone ever hears about this part, because it does not look like anything. No smoke, no lockup, no drama. Just one car finding energy the other one has already burned through. And somehow, it gets worse. Because the part that actually matters is not how Antonelli spends the energy, it is where he keeps getting it. You can only deploy what you have already collected. Every lap, the car claws electrical energy back under braking, and under these rules, under lifting off the throttle too. Fill that battery faster, and you have more to throw down the next straight. That is the whole secret, not a bigger engine, a fuller battery, more often, in more places. And this is where the Mercedes is doing something the rest of the grid simply is not. The reporting out of Silverstone points at one specific method. Mercedes has found a way to lift and harvest that costs them almost nothing in lap time, but quietly tops the battery back up in the places their rivals leave it flat. It is legal, it is clever, and it is exactly the kind of edge that hides in plain sight, because on the timing screen it looks like absolutely nothing. Think about what that does over a full lap. Every corner where the Mercedes steals a little charge the Ferrari does not, Antonelli arrives at the next straight with more in reserve. He is not saving it for one big move. He is topping up constantly. A sip here, a sip there, so that by the time he needs a full burst, the tank is already fuller than the car he is chasing. Now stack that up around a track like Silverstone, a lap full of long, energy-hungry straights, and the gap is not a fluke or a one-off. It is built in from the first lap to the last. The Ferrari can match the Mercedes through the corners. It just cannot match it at the one point on the lap where the race is actually decided, the long run to the next braking zone, and here is why the rest of the grid cannot simply steal it back. You do not copy something like this by looking at a photo of the car. It lives inside how the whole power unit is wired to collect and release its energy, tuned over months, learned lap by lap. By the time a rival works out what Mercedes is even doing, Mercedes is already 3 steps further down the road. And this is not a Silverstone-only trick. It travels. Every remaining race this year has straights, and every one of those straights is now a place where the Mercedes can do to somebody what it just did to Hamilton. Antonelli has not found a one-off. He has found a way to win the part of the lap that decides modern Formula 1. That should worry the entire grid, not just Ferrari, and if that were the only problem, Ferrari might survive it. But then you remember they have been fighting this exact battle all season, and losing it. This next part is the one even Mercedes rivals cannot argue with. The car is fast in a way you cannot copy overnight. You cannot bolt this on between Saturday and Sunday. That is the kind of advantage that ends weekends before they even begin. If you are the kind of fan who wants the why behind the result, not just the highlights reel, subscribe. That is what we do here every single race weekend. Enter the Ferrari half of the story, because their weekend looks nothing like Mercedes. All year, Ferrari has carried a deployment problem. Their power unit runs out of electrical energy earlier down the straights, which means their drivers spend the last stretch of every long straight effectively coasting, while the cars behind them keep pulling. On a tight, twisty circuit, you can bury that weakness. At Silverstone, with its wide open straights, you cannot hide it anywhere. And here is the cruel irony sitting underneath all of it. The energy rules are written to pull the field together, to stop any one engine running away with the sport. Mercedes has taken that exact rule, the one meant to level everything, and turned it into the sharpest weapon on the grid. The rule that was supposed to protect Ferrari is the rule beating them. For Hamilton, this is the nightmare version of a home race. He is not slow, he qualifies well, he races hard, he does every single thing his experience is screaming at him to do. But the tool he needs at the end of the straight simply is not in his hands. Every time he defends with less. Every time he attacks, he runs dry before the move can land. Imagine sprinting a race where your rival gets to breathe, and you do not. That is Hamilton down every straight at Silverstone right now. And he knows it. You do not get to 7 titles without being able to feel exactly where a car is strong and where it is bare. He can sense the run building behind him before it even arrives. He just cannot stop it. There is no line to defend, no braking point to protect. When the pass happens at full speed in the middle of the straight, the warning signs are there all season, race after race, and every time they get waved away as bad luck, or a scrappy weekend, or a track that just did not suit the car. They are not bad luck. They are the same energy gap, showing up again and again. And every weekend it goes unsolved, the title drifts a little further out of reach, because you cannot chase a championship from the wrong end of the straight. That was not even the part that got people angry. The part that got people angry is that it is happening to Hamilton. Here, at the one race weekend he is supposed to own outright. The crowd came to watch him win. Instead, they are watching a teenager in the other silver car show them, in real time, exactly how far Ferrari still has to climb. So what does all of this mean for tomorrow? Qualifying for the Grand Prix is already in the books, and it does not make comfortable reading in red. Antonelli takes pole. Hamilton lines up third, which means when the lights go out on Sunday, Hamilton is once again staring at the back of the very car that just embarrassed him on his own straight, with another car between them for good measure. And everything that beat him in the sprint is still sitting right there. Same rules, same energy game, same long Silverstone straights where the Mercedes tops up its battery while the Ferrari bleeds. The Grand Prix is far longer than a sprint, and length usually rewards the smarter, faster package, not the one already scrambling to catch up. More laps means more straights, and more straights means more chances for that energy gap to do its quiet work all over again. Every single lap, the same fight, in Mercedes' favor. For Hamilton to turn this around, he needs the race to come to him, a safety car that bunches the field back up, rain that throws the energy maths out of the window. A first lap where he simply refuses to be passed and dares Antonelli into a mistake. Because on pure pace, down these straights, with this energy gap, he simply does not have the tool to fight back. He needs the weekend to hand him something the car will not. The crowd will be there anyway. They always are. Tomorrow they fill every grandstand hoping the man who has won here 9 times can find a 10th. And hoping the closing laps do not look like lap 8 of the sprint did. Hope is the one thing Silverstone always gives Lewis Hamilton. Whether the car lets him use it is a different question. Antonelli looks like a driver who has cracked something the rest of the grid is still fumbling with in the dark. He celebrates the sprint, like a young man who already knows Saturday was only the trailer. He should not get too comfortable though. Silverstone has broken young leads before, and Hamilton at Silverstone is never truly out of it until the flag actually falls. 9 wins at one track do not happen by accident. If there is a single driver alive who can find a way past a car that is faster in a straight line, it is the one who has done it here more times than anyone in the history of the sport. He has spent a career finding the half chance nobody else sees and taking it, but he has to find it fast, because right now, the energy, the pole, and every ounce of momentum all sit in the other garage. As of tonight, the story stands like this. A teenager has taken Silverstone off Lewis Hamilton in front of his own crowd, using an Edge Mercedes built right out in the open, while the rest of us called it straight line speed and looked the other way. Tomorrow, they go again. Same track, same weapon, same champion who has never once learned how to lose here quietly. This one is not over, not even close.